Now, today's episode is about 4 or 5 minutes longer than usual, but it's because today's guest is not only bringing it on the mound for the Toronto Blue Jays, but he was bringing it as a return guest to the Locked On Blue Jay podcast. And I hope you enjoy the conversation we're about to get into with Toronto Blue Jay, Jay Jackson.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, friends. Craig Ballard, Locked On Blue Jays, Locked On Blue Jay podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to remind you that all Toronto Blue Jay action this season available for you to catch on SiriusXM. Let's get right into this conversation with Jay Jackson. In my opinion, it was a lot of fun. We get into everything from the trade deadline to his recent success to his slider to bullpen hijinks. We get an update on his family as well. So I love the conversation. Let's get right into it. Today, back on the Locked On Blue Jay podcast, Toronto Blue Jay reliever Jay Jackson. Craig Ballard, Locked On Blue Jays, really excited, pleased to be joined. Now, this is not only a friend of the show, but Jay Jackson, I don't know if you know, you are now the first-time returning guest on the Locked On Blue Jay podcast. And Jay, just an amazing time to have you on here. Now, really excited to get into some baseball talk with you. Last time you were on, I loved, we deep dived your matchups with Judge. We deep dived Yordan Alvarez, Alec Bregman, like some big time, got in your head there. I really enjoy that aspect of these conversations. So definitely want to get into some fun things there. But Jay, first and foremost, the most important thing we're going to talk about here is right out the gate. And I know professional athlete, dad, fiance, like you've got things on your plate. I do get it, right? So some things might get a little bit lost. You're busy doing other things. So I don't know if you and your fiance are, I hope you are noticing. I mean, you guys have become just majorly loved by the Blue Jay fan base. The Blue Jay fan base has gotten, two huge thumbs up for you, Jay. You're really become, very popular in this fan base. How is the family doing? And is that something that you and your fiance are noticing, Jay?
Everything's going and trending in the right direction right now. So
Excellent.
PR is doing well. Fiance's progressing along, getting healthier, and just getting time to spend with him in the hospital and everything too. Everything's going well and trending in the right direction, but it's still a long way to go. But we have definitely noticed, and thank all the fans in Blue Jay Nation for everything they've done, all the support, all the love they've sent us, all the energy that they've sent us. It's been nothing short of amazing, and we can't express enough of our gratitude to everybody for that.
That is so, Jay. I'm really glad. I myself have been touched, Jay. I've been enjoying. You know what? I don't know how immersed you are in Blue Jay, lore, but the season you're authoring right now for the Blue Jays and how you're climbing this ladder in this Blue Jay fan base, it's giving me Jason Grilly vibes. In 2016, Jason Grilly was a veteran pitcher, veteran reliever, didn't have the hype train behind him, right? Didn't have the big marketing hype train behind him, but came in and did such that 2016 team, that's a playoff team for the Blue Jays. And Jason Grilly was awesome on that team, and the fan base just started to love him. Jay, could I even compare? For those of us back in the day, a Dennis Lamp in 1985. Now, that's definitely before your time, Jay, but there was a Dennis Lamp. Before me. Yeah. But he was just a extremely important reliever. 85 was the first time the Blue Jays made the playoffs. And Jay, dare I even say, I'm seeing some comparisons. Last season, Ross Stripling came in and made some incredibly important appearances for the Blue Jays. So your role, Jay, just seeing it blossom has been really enjoyable to watch, and definitely want to get into the success that you're having on the mound for the Toronto Blue Jays this season. But I wanted to start with a question about that I'm totally fascinated to hear your take here on. What sort of things?
Alarm! That was alarm for this. So
yes, that's the Locked On Blue Jays alarm. I love that. We'll always have time for that, Jay. I love that. Thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for making the time, Jay. That's so appreciated.
Anytime.
And I wonder, Jay, what do you covet with your relationship with your catcher? And I wondered, what sort of things are important to you with your relationship with your catcher? And I wonder, Jay, has any of that changed because we've got new rules now in the game?
Nothing's really changed with the catchers. Pitchers and catchers, we have to be almost in sync all the time. And for me, I think with my catchers, my respect that I have for catchers shows to them a lot of times. And I feel like we feed off of that with each other. Because for me, being a catcher is probably the most valuable position on the field. As much work as they do, just from the beginning of spring training to the end of the year, having to have so many pitchers, they've got to know the amount of work they have to do, especially during spring training. They're there half the time before the coaches even get there because they have early work before any of the pitching and anything else, because they have to come in, get ready to do their early work, and then catch bullpens when we have bullpens at 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning, and then try to find time to hit, and then go catch lives, do infield, outfield defenses, catch the games after that, and all types of stuff. So for me, I think the respect I have for them and just genuinely trying to make their lives easier is, it doesn't change for me, because I think from day one I've always felt like catchers are a huge part, and I know that I can't get my job done without having great catchers, and having Jano and Kirky back there, and just the energy and knowledge they have and how they take care of us is just unbelievable too. I think you see that with a lot of pro catchers, but the catchers we have in our organization have been unbelievable as well.
And you mentioned all the work the catchers have to do all day, every day, Jay. And what they're doing as they're doing that work, they're just seated comfortably, correct? No, they're down in some crouch all day. Like, I do not know how they do this. And then it comes game time, and they've got 15, 16 foul balls hit. I do not know how a catcher does what a catcher does. So I'm right there with you with the shout outs to the catchers. Okay, yes, indeed. Jay, I wanted to talk to you about your pitch mix. Well, first of all, Jay, do you know how many strikeouts you have this season?
I don't even normally look at my numbers till it's all done. Like during the season, I never try to check them, just because for me, like the season, each outing is going to be different. And at the end, I like to check the numbers because I can remember the ups and downs, but at the end, I like to kind of just see where I rank at and just kind of see how I felt the year went at the end. I really never try to look at my numbers until the year's completely done.
Well, so just cover your ears there, because I'm going to say your numbers, Jay, if you don't want to know them, just for the fans at home, just for the listeners here. You have 16 strikeouts on the season. How many of those strikeouts of the 16 would you say have come off of your slider? What's that feel like to you?
I'd probably say out of 16, probably 13 or 14.
Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Exactly correct. And Jay, what I want to know from you, that slider, I mean, my goodness, but the fastball that you have. So for the majority of major league pitchers, that fastball is the main pitch, and then the slider would be something secondary, and you're using the slider to help you set up the fastball. For you, you're working the other way around there. What do you see in your mind as far as the strategy? How do you try to employ your fastball to have it be that complementary pitch for the slider?
Well, I mean, for me, I've always had my fastball be my primary pitch growing up and through the minors when I was a starter and things of that nature, and especially when I was younger. Even still, I try to focus on, as much as I use my slider as like 65% is what they tell me to use it, I still try to focus on my fastball being my main pitch, and because my slider flows off my fastball more. So if I'm thinking fastballs, then my slider actually feels like it's better. If I'm sitting there thinking that I need to throw a lot of sliders, then I feel like it starts getting loopy. It's not as sharp, and that's when I start getting in trouble. So as long as I keep a mentality of fastball and attacking hitters with it, I feel like I'm better. And so for me, it's just always thinking fastball and try to just think of fastball execution and then have your hand placement out for that, and just know I have a good slider.
Well, I love that. And Jay, I love the last time you were on, you mentioned that you have a lot of good relationships around baseball, and you'll ask them, hey, I faced you, the other day. What did that slider look like? You'll go through the at bat with them, and it's a great conversation to have. Jay, what do batters tell you about your slider and about the difficulties they have? And put modesty aside, Jay, you're a very modest person here, but what do they tell you about your pitch mix? And I'm wondering in particular, because you run the fastball up there about 94, the batters' reactions, it looks to me like they're seeing it like 98, 99, because they're so concerned with the slider.
I mean, I hope so. The reactions I've gotten from guys over the years have been, that it's just a really good slider. So as long as I'm throwing it in the zone and it's not a ball out of the hand, then most guys are like, we have to try it. The most responses I've gotten from my slider is that it's been good, so good sometimes that guys are like, we're not swinging at it, period. And so in those periods, you just have to kind of just try to throw it in the zone and not make a mistake. And, you just work off of that. You see guys that are constantly spitting on sliders or taking good sliders, or you're making pitches that are really close and they're not swinging at it like through the whole at bat or early in the count. Then you just try to throw a fastball in there just to get them in an attack mode, so I can start, adjusting how I'm going to do the rest of the at bat after that.
Coming up on the Locked On Blue Jay podcast, more with Jay Jackson. He's with us for today's entire show, and he's awesome. Now, I wanted to mention for our championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. Well, it's the same when it comes to your vehicle, right? Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guarantee Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that that part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, well, you're going to be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit available to U.S. customers only. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. And then, Jay, for a reliever, I mean, for a starter, we probably want that fourth pitch in there. But for a reliever, if you have three good pitchers, I mean, that's outstanding. So if we were to build the perfect 2023 Toronto Blue Jay reliever, so we're going to use three pitches here. We're using Jay Jack. I know you're a modest guy, Jay. We're using your slider. Opponents are hitting 079 against your slider, Jay. Modesty or not, we're using your slider. That's one of our three pitches. So if that's one of our three pitches, who else in the bullpen? What other pitches are you using to make our perfect 2023 Blue Jay reliever?
We're go with probably, if we're going to use my slider, I'm going to go with Nate's fastball.
Beauty. Okay. So
Sure.
So there's the triple digits to go with the slide. Okay, my goodness, we're getting somewhere here. Okay.
And then we're going with T. Rich's changeup as the third pitch.
Man. You and I did not discuss this prior, Jay. We did not discuss this prior, as you're well aware. That's my three. That's exactly what I would do. I wondered if I would, because I like, I like Jordan Romano's fastball as well. I think that sometimes you can locate it really well. But yeah, Nate. I mean, how can we pass up on the triple digits of Nasty Nate? Right? Yeah, let's do that.
And that's the only reason. If you're gonna have a slider like that, and you're gonna have a changeup off of that, I mean. Trent's changeup is like 83. So if you have a 100-mile-per-hour fastball and an 83-mile-per-hour changeup, and then an 86, 87-mile-per-hour slide, you're pretty good. You look at, I mean, you kind of see that happening with some of the guys we have as closers today. You look at Duran from Minnesota. You look at Bautista from Baltimore. You look at Jordan Hicks. Like, these dudes are throwing 100 with all speed. That's still in the probably low 90s to high 80s. Like, those are two drastically different pitches to hit all the time. So if you can have three of those, like, that's tough.
And Jay, speaking of the Blue Jays bullpen there, what sort of hijinks can you sort of pull the curtain back on for us there? So what if you're in the bullpen and the game's going on? Who's somebody that's going to bring up some sort of topic and your immediate reaction is, oh, okay, this is about to be good?
We just have so many great guys down there and just so many funny conversations. Everybody has such a different personality. So everybody just kind of does random stuff from time to time. We all vibe very well together, but I would say we have a lot of quiet dudes.
Yeah. Swanee
likes looking at media guides, which is awesome. So he'll go through the media guides and find fun facts, and then he'll just chirp off on those. So those are probably the funniest things we have. We don't have we don't have too many hijinks. I think those are saved for more of pitchers versus position players, or position players versus pitchers a lot of times. But down there in the bullpen, we're just, a lot of guys are focused on the game, but our fun stuff is just finding random stuff for interacting fans and stuff down there a lot of times, instead of going at each other and doing little pranks in there a lot.
Jay, is there any interest in the bullpen? I mean, I would be obsessed in the bullpen. I would be positioning myself constantly. I would want to catch a home run from my teammate in the bullpen. Is that like a fan way of thinking, Jay? Because when you're there in the bullpen, is that the last thing on your mind because you got the game, things like that, or do you guys actually think about things like that?
We don't think about catching home runs as much as like do as if you're warming up and the ball comes at you. But for us, we love watching our guys hit home runs, as normally like the guys will point to the bullpen and we give them love too, and they give us love. But that's the fan thing. But I mean, playing baseball, who doesn't like catching home runs? Who doesn't like getting strikeouts or anything like that? So if we're out there and we can catch a home run, that's always fun because we're involved earlier in the game than we should be. So everybody's looking at us at that point, so we can again get to interact with fans and have some fun, especially earlier in the game.
Jay Jackson, now I don't want to put words in your mouth here. So if there's a different team, I mean, absolutely, the floor is yours. But I was thinking about this the other day, Jay, when you came in to the Dodgers game the other day. It must be. I mean, you're a veteran in this game. You've been around. You've had numerous defenses behind you. Jay, am I just grasping a straw? This has got to be the best defense you've ever had behind you. Am I right about that? Is that something you notice, or are you sitting there saying, actually, Craig, 2015 here,
No,
or where does this defense rank for you?
this defense that we have, like I was saying to my fiance a lot, is people will want to say things about Varsh and like how he's hitting lately and stuff like that, but like his defense and the way he plays, regardless of how he bats, him and KK, you have Springer out there, you have Wood out there running down balls everywhere. To have the amount of confidence that we can have in those guys, especially in the outfield too, and then you look infield with Vladdy when he's in there, SB, Bo, and then you have Chappie's a platinum glover at third.
Yeah.
You're fine. Like for me, you just want to make sure that you're throwing strikes. So I mean, these guys are gonna. They tell you that all the time when you're coming up is to throw strikes and let your defense work. And as ball's progressed, as we've seen it, it's been more of a strikeout type approach. So for me, let your defense work. You're going to get the strikeouts when they come because guys are going to get in bad counts. You're going to have good pitches and throw good pitches. They're going to be foul balls and et cetera, et cetera. But 9 out of 10 times strike out 20 guys a game. You're going to say, 10, 12 to 15. So you need those outs. Outs are key. And as long as you're making those guys have easy plays for me, the thing is like you're making them have easy plays and you're making your pitches and they can be comfortable, then especially as talented as they are, the easy plays make them feel a lot more comfortable so they can go get those runs in the dugout after.
There you go. There you go. There you go. In support of you to get the win. Now, speaking of you getting the win, Jay, in your career, you are 6-1. 3 of those wins have come in the last 3 weeks. Like Jay Jackson is on absolute fire. Since you were on the show last, you've had 8 appearances, 12 2/3 innings over those appearances. You've allowed as many runs as I have, which is to say 0. 4 hits over those 12 2/3 innings, 2 walks, and 14 strikeouts. We were talking earlier, Jay, about how you're playing the fastball and slider off of each other, but can you expand on, I mean, what is working? You're on absolute fire right now, Jay. What has been working for you lately?
I would say just me being aggressive, trying to get guys out earlier in counts. And then when I have a chance to put them away, trying to put them away, and therefore I'm making good pitches. So they're not having hard contact and they're getting soft contact or they're missing period. But, just attacking, like you said, we have such a great defense. If I'm attacking and as long as the ball's not going out of the yard, I've got a chance to get an out. So for me, it's just getting outs and then, again, putting our team in positions that I feel like I'm helping and I'm being the best person that I can be to help our team win. My goal is to get to the World Series and win one. So whatever I have to do to help, whatever situation it's in, I just want to go out there and, like I said, help them get as comfortable as they can, get quick out so they can go back in, feel comfortable, get some runs, and we can get out of there with a win to, chase these guys down in our division so we don't have to worry about this wild card spot and get to this World Series as soon as possible.
And Jake, I mean, you're a humble guy here, so I don't know what I'll get from you. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it really felt to me the July 24th game, so that first game in LA where you came in the 9th and the 10th inning. When you got that third out in the 10th inning, there was an eruption from Jay Jackson on the mound as you were coming off the mound there. And Jay, it was 2 big innings in a big spot. Like it warranted an eruption as is. But Jay, am I wrong? The way I perceive that, there was a little bit of history in that. I was perceiving you, Jay, as a little bit of I've been telling you. If you give me the opportunity, if you give me the ball, I will run with it. I've been telling you I can produce for you on the big league level consistency if you give me the chance. That's how I perceived it, Jay. Am I reading too much into that?
For me, it was just the emotions of that moment and, us getting a win and being able to, keep that game close against the Dodgers when I felt like we had a chance to get some momentum right there. Like for me, that was a big momentum shift for us. So the emotions came out from that. but also, like I said, for me, like our team, just like the energy that our team brings, like that was a huge moment. And you see, we just came off a tough series from Seattle. We come
Mm,
in here, Seattle, we could have either swept or got swept. Then we come in there, and that's a
yeah.
huge game. We go extras early against a great team. That's a hell of a ball game. And then, you know, I think that was the energy that I needed to let out, hopefully, to get our team pumped up a little bit more, give them a little extra oomph just to, like I said, get some runs so we can get out of there. So we can get
Yep.
Romo in the game, shut it down. And like I said, the way that we've been playing, those emotions are going to start probably coming out more with it being the second half. These baseball games are going to beat a little bit more.
Mm.
There's going to be guys have a little bit more edge to them in the second half because the rivalries might be getting a bit much because playoff spots are on the line. So there might be a little bit more emotion, but it's all happy emotion, and that's going to be all smiles at the end of the day. So, like I said, hopefully it's going to be the biggest smile at the end of the year when we get this championship. But right now, it's just our guys are battling and they're playing so well. So when we lose these close games, it hurts, and just those emotions come out from time to time. So, like, yeah, I'm hopefully it'll be more, but hopefully I get more opportunities. And like I
Yeah.
said, as long as I'm able these guys, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help serve this team in the best way possible. Just, make sure that we're trending in the right direction.
And Jade, that game, that the first game in LA, or either game in LA, especially that first one, it was just so important, that ninth and 10th inning that you authored for the Blue Jays. Take us through as much of that day as possible. So you're coming to that day, you see the scouting reports, you're thinking, if I come in today, it might be in what situation. And then as the game develops, when does it become clear to you that, hey, this bullpen phone's about to ring and they're about to ask me to get loose down here now?
You stay ready the whole game, and then I think it was like in the eighth or ninth, they started getting me hot and getting loose, and then told me if we score, then Romano's going to be in the game, but if it stayed tight, then I was going to be in the game. So just with how the bullpen's been, and guys getting rest and needing days off and things of that nature, so you know, I'm I'm always excited to help the team whenever I need to. So, if guys need days down and I'm available and they put me in a situation to help, like my goal is to go out there and try my best to help. Things might not always work best, but you go out there and try to make the pitches and see what happens. And luckily, so far, everything's been going in the right direction for us, and everything's been going in the right direction for me. And whenever they call my name, I'm there to help and go out there and give it what I have, and see what.
What I'm hearing is you got a real boost from being on the Locked On Blue Jay podcast the first time, Jay. That selfishly, that's what I'm hearing. But anyway, okay.
I
And Jay,
believe it.
now Jay, the trade deadline time. You've been traded a couple times. You were traded from Pittsburgh's organization to Milwaukee. You were traded from San Fran to Atlanta as well. What's that like when you're traded? Is there preamble to that, or all of a sudden are you seeing a phone call from your agent and it's go time? That's part one, Jay. And part two is this something that fans are completely obsessed with the trade deadline? Are the players in the clubhouse having these conversations, or once you get into the clubhouse, no, Craig, we've got business to take care of. So let's start with the first part, Jay. When someone's traded, is there preamble? Do you see it coming?
The times I've been traded, no. Most guys, I think, can see that. I think it's more like top prospects, guys that are playing well. Your name has been in the trade rumors for a couple weeks or something like that, or it was even in the trade rumors during the offseason. Those guys normally have more idea that they would be traded because they're on the trade blocks. The year I got traded from Pittsburgh to Milwaukee trade, and I had no earthly idea what was going on. I knew that year that me and the Pirates weren't on the same page to a certain degree, and we weren't on the same footing, and I was having an up and down year, and I wasn't really getting used and everything like that. So it was kind of, they could probably either release me or trade me or something like that. But like, I don't think they were going to release me at that time because I was throwing decent. So luckily I got traded to Milwaukee, and I got to go play in Nashville. And actually that year I got the last start at the old Nashville Sound Stadium with the big guitar. So,
Oh, wow.
To do that. And then with the Braves trade, that was actually really interesting too, because the Giants had I didn't make the playoff roster, which we're not going to go. Didn't make the playoff roster, and then they picked up my the next year when I didn't think they were going to, because of me not playoff roster and them having a bunch of bullpen depth and et cetera, to them picking up my option and then DFAing me not even a week later. And then after I got DFA'd, the Braves traded me to them. So it was a wild situation altogether. But you never know. Like, I was excited to be part of the team and know that I was going to be in the big leagues possibly for that next year. And then all of a sudden, you're not on the team anymore. You're DFA'd. And I was okay, well, I'll be free agent again. And then all of a sudden, no, we're trading you and you're going to a whole nother team. So it was a whirlwind, but luckily in that situation, I got to be close to home, which was in Atlanta and also down in for spring training. But you just kind of live with it. Like, guys have different those things where, again, if you're a top prospect and you're playing well and your team needs whatever and that's not your position, there's a good chance that your name's going to be in there and you're going to get traded or have an ability to get traded. Whereas if you're under the radar having good years and you don't seem to be a top prospect or whatever else might be, you never know what could happen. Like, but when those things do happen, you try to take the positives out of them by being like, okay, another team wanted me enough and it might give me enough of an opportunity because they saw something in me to take advantage. And so I wouldn't take it as a negative, so to speak. I mean, those times are going to be hard for sure because those guys, you've made friends, family, in whatever organization you've been, but to be wanted by somebody else is always something that, like, you should have a positive about, because you can go there and those people are going to hopefully embrace you and give you the things you need to succeed further on.
Just yesterday, Jay Jackson, on Throwback Thursday episode yesterday, we did a Throwback Thursday episode about past good, bad, and ugly of past Blue Jay trade deadlines, and one of those was 1992 rookie drafted and developed by the Blue Jays, Jeff Kent, traded for David Cone. Well, Jeff Kent wouldn't have wanted to be traded for David Cone at that time, but he goes on to have a 17-year. A lot of people think Jeff Kent should be in the Hall of Fame. That's just that playing time wasn't available. We had Roberto Alomar here, Jay. There wasn't playing time available for Jeff Kent, so that's what it reminded me there when you're saying that. Sometimes the player will actually see, oh, wait a minute here, way better opportunity for me going forward. Now, is the trade deadline something that's discussed by you guys in the locker room, or just sort of to a certain extent, or no, you guys are really on top of this?
I mean, we talk about it. We see guys getting traded, guys that are available, guys that, we think that would vibe well in our locker room, or guys that, guys have played with before that they like, that would be like, like, we could see those guys being in here, just because the goal for all of us is we want to win a championship. We want to win a championship together. But it's not so much that we want to win it together and exclude everybody from every other team. It's we want to win a championship, and we want to make sure guys that come in fit. We're family, so we're allowing guys to come in as long as they fit and they're going to be pulling in the same direction with us, and it's going to be a good vibe. We don't really, and I see Ross and those guys, the way we all meld together and love each other and are there to help each other, that I don't see them putting anybody there that's not going to do the same thing, When I was with the Giants a couple of years ago, big trade deadline acquisition we got Tony Watson and Chris Bryant that year. Same type of thing where they came in and they fit perfectly with us, and it helped us win NL East that year. I mean, NL West that year. Because it in with us, and they came into our family and didn't cause disruption. They knew the goal was, and everybody's going towards the same thing. It's never so much that you want to just completely take people out, when the goal is to be the best family, best team you can be, which is winning the championship.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you about that, Jay. So what traditionally happens when the new teammate comes in? Is there like this might sound, is there like a welcoming committee, or is it you see them at the locker and you go and say hello, or are there traditionally, you're laughing, are there traditionally, ways to welcome that new teammate?
I mean, most of the times we've all played against them or known through other experiences, because I mean, we've all been in baseball to a certain extent where we've gone through it and played against each other at some level, or guys know each other. But guy comes in, you embrace him. Just like if a rookie comes in, you embrace them. You want to make sure they feel loved and know that like we're there for them, that we're there to help them make sure that they're going to do their job because they're helping us. It's a big family. You know, if you bring a new baby in, or if you adopt a child, or you have a long lost cousin or family member just pop up, you know what I mean? If they and they're willing to be accepted by you guys, and they're wanting to come in and make the family better, there's nothing else that you should want to do except for embrace that person and make sure that they feel welcome and loved, so they can be their best self to help you achieve the ultimate goal of what we're trying to do. You know, you come in and you start being negative to some guys, they take that the wrong way. That could completely splinter and fracture a team to a certain degree, unless you have enough to cover that. So, you know, you try to welcome everybody with open arms and just get the job done.
Brilliant. And then Jay, last question for you here. And on the sticking with the trade deadline stuff, I'm just interested to know. So come August 1st, you know, 3 Blue Jays off the whatever it is, you know, even if it's 1 Blue Jay off the roster has been traded now. What happens with all the signs, Jay? Is it a tear down and you know, build it back up again, or what happens with all those things?
Wait, say that again. I missed you.
When a player gets so if a Blue Jay off the major league roster does get moved before the trade deadline, what happens with your sign? I mean, he knows all the signs, he knows the third base signs, he knows all the lingo. So is it a total revamp from the bottom up with the signs and your terminology and things like that? Do things like that happen?
It depends on, I guess, sometimes which guy it is, but you don't revamp the whole system. You just change the terminology. You might change the sign here or there. But I mean, if you started in baseball, there's only so many plays that you can do. We all have kind of the same plays. You might have, you know, different places to touch, but they all have the same places, just counteracting those. Once you see it off, like, it's better if you know beforehand, obviously, but you all counteract each other and you kind of play counterattacks and things of that nature all the time. You might change the terminology or change, you know, the placement of a sign, where you might go from your hat to like your belt or something like that. But for the most part, you know, you keep baseball simple, you get better baseball. So you start trying to trick everybody, or trying to trick your own teammates, or trying to trick the other team just with like bunt plays or something like that. More often than not, bunt play is going to get screwed up anyway, because we've already changed it and it's not the same. You know what I mean? You're thinking so much about the bunt play instead of just the execution. So a little bit just so they don't get it, but because I mean, we've obviously seen how tipping stuff goes, but but you try your best just to like make it simple and just execute, and that's all you can really do.
Well, Jay Jackson, thank you so much for your time today. I really looked forward to this. It was every bit as good as I thought it would be. Jay, if I'm saying that a precedence has been set now, every third win you get back on the Locked On Blue Jay podcast, I'm saying a precedent has been set, Jay. I'm sorry. I don't know if the fiance and the family are going to agree with that, but in my mind, that's how this is going to work going forward. And the way you've been going, Jay, heck, that might mean you're on the Locked On podcast again next week, the way you've been stacking these wins, by the way. But absolutely continued success. I'm so glad the first question we talked about, that you and your fiance are noticing how much love you're getting from the Toronto Blue Jay fan base. You are, you know, the one of us. You are one of us, Jay Jackson. You are one of us, and that entire Jackson family. El Presidente, the president of Jacksland, right here, Jay Jackson. Jay, what sort of parting words would you like to say to the fans?
I just want to tell all of Blue Jays Nation, thank you so very much for support. Me and Sam and the family, you're keeping us going through this a lot with your energy and your love that you're sending us. And just thank you. And I hope that, you know, we're what it means to show this love back to you guys by my play and by Sam posting and giving you guys updates. And just want to say thank you so much from both of us. And hopefully, like I said, win this championship and bring the ship back to Toronto.
Jay Jackson, thank you. El Presidente, thank you.
Thank you. Always, Craig. Appreciate it.